Welcome to Synced on Air. I'm Angelique Robb, your host, and I'd like to say a special thanks to Turfs Up Radio for having us and convincing us to launch this podcast. Today is a little bit different in that I've want to tell you a bit more about the Cultivate conference that is hosted by American Hort in Columbus, Ohio. It was the first time I'd been to Ohio, um, and it was great. I was really impressed with the conference and how much there was to it. When you came into the reception area, there were so many beautiful setups, small gardens, even some greenhouse looking areas with hose art. And you can look on my LinkedIn posts and Instagram to see what I mean by that. But some really great opportunities for photos and to showcase new varieties of plants and new products, or old products that are improved, much more improved. So I'm all about that, doing things better. This industry, what I find is I think it's just such a big industry. It's actually hard to find just those things that you need to do things better. Um, and some people, haven't been to Cultivate because as a landscape business owner, it probably isn't exactly the right conference. But what I have found there are things, people, products, services that I haven't seen at other conferences. So it was very worthwhile. I loved finding out about products that can conserve water, from rainwater harvesting to, you know, additives to the soil that could reduce how much irrigation you need, especially maybe in between irrigation periods that the plants maybe aren't drying out as much due to these additives, but also some of the new plant varieties that are a take on a product that we maybe all have used, and it's taking a special hybridized variety to make it less, need less water and actually bloom more. So some great new plants that aren't brand new to the market. They are actually out there to design and install with, but they're proven, but they're still that new that landscape design and build companies should know about them. So more on that in our next issue, our fall issue. We're going to focus on the new varieties that are coming out and a little bit more of a horticulture focus, as well as looking at trees. Although we've had some, in our publication when we first launched, we were pro landscaper. In that publication, we have had some great conversations with people like Dr. Ed Gilman. And I'm going to see what issue this is. This is May, June 2021. And Dr. Ed Gilman was introduced to us through John Conroy at Fish Branch Tree Farm in Florida. And what I found fascinating about that article was how you can prune a tree to make the roots and the tree itself stronger. And Ed gave some examples of shaving off roots on the outside of the root ball and how that can keep you from having girdling roots, but also pruning methods that can make a more stable tree, and of course I'm in the South thinking of, hurricanes, and many people in neighborhoods get very afraid that a tree will fall on their house and they remove a tree. But in fact, what they should be doing is getting healthier trees, nurturing them more, and pruning them away that makes them stronger, and keeping that shade for the summer when we need it the most, like these very, very hot days that we're having just now. Um, So back to Cultivate. I got a little distracted. Um, but you know, there are so many new things out there that I think are being targeted to garden centers, but really landscape business owners, especially design and build, but also those maintenance companies that, for instance, you know, plant up containers for businesses every year. There are companies like Crescent Garden that they are doing something. I know about these kinds of products. I've been using them in Europe. There's a Spanish company that I bought from that have a reservoir of water and an indicator on how much water they have in the pot, in the base of the pot that you can't tell, but it's in there. I've been using those for indoor plants, but what's interesting is that Crescent Garden have developed something that has an overflow so that, let's say you have these self-watering planters outside, and it can keep them from getting overwatered as well as underwatered. Um, and just some really great large planters that would be great for city centers, um, in parks, but also I want some for my house because I'm a lazy gardener and I don't like to water plants. And in South Louisiana, you can't really have containers outside unless you're watering them all the time in the summer. And then you'll have a rainy few days, and then the plants will literally be floating in water. So it's getting that balance right. Um, some other products that I learned about are biochar. Um, and what's interesting about this is by adding this as a top dressing for lawns and gardens, or using it in planters and flower beds, you are actually able to remove a certain amount of CO2. So you're able to help reverse climate change by adding this to your soil. It says every pound of this biochar net removes about 3 pounds of CO2. Um, it also helps reduce the amount of watering that you need. So again, another benefit. Um, but there's also, things like sustainable insect, mite, and disease control solutions for outdoor and indoor gardens. I've also found out about a product that has, um, let's see, it's an organic mix that you can add to planters or to your beds that supports um, water, agriculture, and education projects throughout the world. Um, and it helps your growing environment. So it's like, a additive for your soil that is organic, and it also adds rich nutrients and has moisture control in it. And they're also doing some amazing things. I believe it's 10% of their profits are going to Africa and building schools. And so they're doing some really cool stuff. It's a great story, and we will be featuring how that product came about in the minds of the founder. So stay tuned for some of that. Another great thing that I see coming up are native plants being marketed in a new way and getting their own brands. And we also have this native plant nursery, Pizzo, Pizzo, that are growing native plants, but in deep, tongue-tied, deeply rooted trays, because we all know that native plants grow deeper roots. And I think that's why, again, using these deeper trays are allowing the native plants to do better. And yeah, look for them. If you're looking to add that to what you grow, these this nursery in Florida can help you do that. So lots of really cool things going on in our industry. One thing that really sticks in my mind, because I saw this on LinkedIn and just had to post something. It's a bit of a soapbox for me these days, in that I found out that urban trees have a 50% mortality rate. And first off, I was just really shocked to hear that number, because it's 2023. And, you know, we have all of this technology, all of this science that's going into growing trees that don't have, spiraling roots or girdling roots. I mean, feel free. I'm not an expert in any of these areas, but so I might use the wrong word sometimes, but you know what I mean, where the roots, because they're in containers, are spiraling around. And if when you plant those, you don't do something about it, they will, lead to death of the tree, an early death. And, there's just so many products that can help what we're doing. And I feel like, as a landscape professional, if you are involved in anything from landscape architecture, specifying, um, landscape design, so residential or commercial, um, install or construction of the site, first off, installation of the plants, or long-term maintenance. It's really our job as professionals, um, to know the best ways of doing things and to do things better. And it's been really upsetting lately. I've been traveling a lot, going to conferences and meeting new people in the industry. And I feel like everywhere I go, I am seeing trees that I can tell right off will not survive, um, to their normal lifespan. Their lives will be cut short because of, quite a few things. First off, wrong tree, for the location, or for, let's say it's in the middle of a parking lot. We all in the South like to, park our trees underneath, park our trees, what? Park our cars underneath trees so they're less hot. Um, but if we don't provide enough soil for these trees to grow, they will be stunted and die an early death. I had a presentation for some civil engineers recently in the city of Lafayette that showed them what soil cells are. And if you don't use them in an urban, paved parking lot, um, urban area, how much they will be stunted. And these studies are going back to 20 years ago. So I find it shocking that, people don't know about it, especially when they're designing urban scapes. Um, so soil cells, if you don't know what they are, look them up. These all tie in with, stormwater management as well. And, that we need water to grow plants and trees. But over the years, we've slowly, cemented things up, or had water drain to, like, culverts underground, where actually it's a precious resource, this water falling from the sky, that we should be using it to water our trees and our plants. And because their roots go so far, if you give them enough soil, they will draw that water in, use it to grow, and also eliminate the flooding problems that we're having. So it it seems to make so much sense that we connect the dots on all these things. But I have a feeling, from seeing so many new developments in so many different cities, that we're not connecting enough dots. And just so everybody who's listening knows, if you don't know what I'm talking about or you want more information on this, please reach out to me, because that's what I feel like SYNKD are here to do. We are here to connect people. We're here to connect design, build, and maintenance. But when I say build, I mean masonry, walling, decking, lighting install, irrigation, everything. We're trying to pull all of those sectors into one place. When I say maintenance, I don't mean just cutting the grass, but I do mean cutting the grass as well. But I mean, plant care, horticulture, um, you know, talking about plant growth regulators. How can we, take what we have and work with it? And like, so stormwater is such a great resource, and water is actually sometimes the biggest problem. It's also the biggest benefit and the biggest problem, but balancing that, we can help everything if we use it wisely. So again, what I'm saying from water and nutrients, and trees, man, at Cultivate, there are so many solutions. So we are working on talking to a bunch of those people, either having them as advertisers or in our editorial, or we'll have them here on our podcast. Yeah, we're gonna start doing that. I don't want to sound like we're only pushing advertising for advertising's sake. We're pushing advertising because I see a lot of problems, or we see a lot of problems in our industry. And I feel like we can't sit there and complain that people aren't paying enough for plants or wanting to pay enough for mowing the lawns, or construction of new gardens, or paying for designs. Again, sometimes a contentious subject, but to do a design right, you have to be paid for it, because it is a lot of work to do it right. And again, that's done differently in each of the states, but I digress. But we all need to be looking for solutions. And I've been in Europe for the past 20 years, and I've seen a lot of solutions that I can't find, or I'm just seeing come across the pond. And it excites me because I feel like I can help that transition. I want people to say, "Hey, Angelique, what were you talking about that? Can you connect me up with the company that can tell me all about what they can do and how they can help?" They will fall over themselves to help you. We will fall over ourselves to help you. So, really, solutions are all around us. What we hope to bring to the table are, the challenges that are being faced by our industry and by homeowners and property owners. We want to educate you, the landscape business owner, the decision makers, the leaders or future leaders in our industry, so that you know where to look to solve some problems. If we're not talking about something that is a problem for you, please reach out. We would love to have our platform be a bit more, two-way street. We have the publication, we have e-newsletters and webinars, we have our live event, but we want to hear from you what's a problem. And there are many solutions, or there are many people to contact to come up with solutions. So a lot of entrepreneurs out there coming into our industry. And again, that's what excites me so much about hearing people didn't start in this industry, but 6 years ago, I saw a niche, and I'm building a company that's going to solve problems for the future. Great, bring it on, because there is a lot of room for improvements. Not saying anything about how we're doing things now But with the pressures of costs going up, with the pressures of globalization, and the cost to working differently, we need to start using technology and looking to these companies that are developing some outstanding products to elevate our businesses and therefore elevate the industry. So we don't have an issue with people coming into the industry because they see it as such a valuable thing to combat climate change, which is ultimately what we're doing. So, think about that. Whenever you're, getting pushed on costs of things, we are, developing a lot of science to help climate change and keep people from getting their houses flooded and this water management issue that is all over the world. Anyway, I've kind of gotten off topic, but I do think that Cultivate was an amazing experience. I loved it. It was great going to Columbus, Ohio for the first time. And yeah, I look forward to going each year from now on so that I can keep on top of the latest solutions and products, how things are changing each year. And then I can report back to you guys and kind of have that full cycle feedback. Thanks for listening, and please follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and reach out if you want to be on here. We want to hear from you. Thanks, and this has been Angelique Robb at SYNKD. SYNKD is SYNKD.io. Hope to hear from you. Thanks.
Hola, Amy aquí trayéndoles el breve sumario del episodio de hoy. En este episodio, Angelique Robb recuerda su reciente asistencia a la prestigiosa conferencia Cultivate, un evento organizado por American Horticultura en la vibrante ciudad de Columbus, Ohio. Era la primera vez que visitaba Ohio y quedó realmente impresionada con la escala y las ofertas de la conferencia. A medida que profundiza en su experiencia en Cultivate, Angelique comparte su fascinación por las numerosas configuraciones cautivadoras presentes en el área de recepción. Ella describe los pequeños jardines bellamente curados y el toque artístico de las estructuras similares a invernadores adornados con arte de manguera, alentando a sus oyentes a visitar sus publicaciones de LinkedIn e Instagram para obtener imágenes. Destaca las increíbles oportunidades para tomar fotos y mostrar variedades de plantas y productos innovadores en la conferencia. Apasionada por el progreso y el crecimiento en la industria de horticultura, Angelique enfatiza su dedicación para buscar formas de hacer mejores las cosas. Ella reconoce que, dado que la industria es tan amplia, puede ser un desafío encontrar las soluciones específicas necesarias para mejorar las prácticas. Sin embargo, encontró que la conferencia Cultivate era un tesoro de valiosos descubrimientos. El entusiasmo de Angelique es evidente cuando habla sobre los productos de vanguardia que conoció, desde sistemas de recolección de agua de lluvia hasta aditivos para el suelo que reducen los requisitos de riego y mejoran la salud de las plantas. Angelique cree que cultivar la industria del paisaje implica adoptar nuevas variedades de plantas que requieren menos agua y exhiban características mejoradas. Si bien algunas de estas plantas han estado en el marco por un tiempo, sus beneficios están probados y deberían ser un enfoque importante para los diseñadores de paisajes y las empresas constructoras. Ella se burla del próximo número de su publicación, donde planea profundizar en el tema y destacar los últimos avances hortícolas. Luego, la grabación da un giro hacia la perspectiva más amplia de Angelique sobre la industria del paisaje. Ella observa que algunos propietarios de negocio de paisajismo pueden no encontrar Cultivate como directamente relevante para su trabajo, pero subraya el valor que ella personalmente encontró en el evento. En particular, descubrió productos y servicios exclusivos de Cultivate que no había encontrado en otras conferencias, lo que hizo que la experiencia valiera la pena. Angelique continúa compartiendo su entusiasmo por los productos innovadores que encontró en la conferencia. Un ejemplo son las maquetas de autoregio con sistemas de desbordamiento de Crescent Garden, ideales para mantener un equilibrio saludable de agua para las plantas, especialmente en climas cálidos y lluviosos como el sur de Luisiana, donde ella reside. Además de su interés por los productos, Angelique muestra un profundo compromiso con las prácticas ambientalmente sostenibles. Habla apasionadamente de los beneficios del uso de biocarbón como aderezo para céspedes y jardines, ya que no solo reduce la necesidad de riego, sino que también contribuye al secuestro del CO2, lo que desempeña un papel en la lucha contra el cambio climático. Con su dedicación a la educación de los profesionales de la industria, Angelique analiza la importancia de centrarse en el cuidado de los árboles y las técnicas adecuadas de plantación. Ella destaca la alarmante tasa de mortalidad de 50% de los árboles urbanos, que podría mejorarse significativamente con las implementaciones de las mejores prácticas. Ella menciona sus esfuerzos para informar a los ingenieros civiles en Lafayette sobre la importancia de usar células de suelo en áreas urbanas para el crecimiento de árboles y el manejo de aguas pluviales. La grabación de Angelique refleja su entusiasmo por brindar información valiosa a su audiencia y cerrar la brecha entre varios sectores dentro de la industria del paisaje. La entusiasma conectar empresas, emprendedores y profesionales para encontrar soluciones a los desafíos que enfrente la industria e impulsar el progreso frente al cambio climático. Su grabación concluye con una invitación para que los oyentes se involucren con nuestra plataforma y comparten sus experiencias y soluciones, fomentando una comunidad colaborativa y con visión del futuro. Gracias por sintonizarse y no olvides que pueden leer el episodio completo en español con todos los detalles de la conferencia de Cultivate en nuestro sitio de web synkd.io y por favor deja una gusta y sigue a todas nuestras plataformas sociales redes. Gracias y hasta la próxima semana.